Hiya, my name's Laura and I'm the current Finds Liaison Officer for Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly, and I'm currently based at the Museum of Cornish Life in Helston, and the brilliance of that setup means that I've been really honoured to have the opportunity to do some curatorial work on the archaeology collections here at the museum. And as part of that, in summer 2024, I had the opportunity to relaunch the archaeology display, which is one of the first displays that you see when you come in the door to the museum, so it's in quite an important space. And what I really wanted to do with the display is I wanted to enhance the sense of community. So with this in mind, I've set up a community display which gets changed on average every 6 months, and it displays finds made by the public. And so we have sort of two aspects to the display. We have the Boden Community display, which is linked to Boden, which is a community dig which is close to the museum, and it's run by Miucci Archaeology group volunteers, and it's been running for over 20 years, and we get some really lovely finds from them, so it's a really lovely way of showcasing what they've been finding to the general public. And then we also have a PAS display, so the Portable Antiquities Scheme, and so these, the finds in that display have all been made by members of the public, whether that's metal detectorists, field walkers, or people doing some gardening. What I really try to do is have a range of finds, so a range of object types, but also a range of object periods. So we have finds on display all the way from the prehistoric, all the way up to sort of 1800s. And it's a really great chance for, if you find something of interest, you can get involved and you can get it in the community archaeology display here, and you know, you can bring your family to the museum to see your find on display. I'm so excited to be able to announce that we've now got our round 2 of the PAS display, so Portable Antiquities Scheme display, here at the Museum of Cornish Life in Helston, and we also have an updated display for Boden, which is the community dig, which is near the museum, and we have a lot of people who volunteer with Miucci Archaeology Group, or MAG, and they've been running the community dig for over 20 years.
Hello, my name is I'm a volunteer at the Museum of Cornish Life in Helston. My role is to support the Finds Liaison Officer for Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. My background is in archaeology. We have an archaeological display here which displays items from Cornwall, but there is a nice display from a local archaeological group, and I have been involved with the excavations for a short time, looking mainly at research for some of the items they found. My speciality is glass beads. The display which has been set up is important for local community to see what is in their area, and a lot of things that people might use today would be surprising that they've actually used them for a long period, especially with the ceramics.
having community display over the last couple of months is seeing how people react when they see their own objects and finds in a museum itself. I think people are much more involved, in the process, and there's a sense of pride that you get that you don't often see in a museum environment. You also get people from across the community, lots of different age groups, people bringing their children, people bringing their grandparents, and there's just a lot stronger sense of pride in looking into a museum display, and I think that's been one of the most positive attributes of having that in the museum.
What I like most about the display is that we have such a range of object types and such a range of period types. So what I've really tried to do, especially for this PAS display, is have finds that go as early back as the Neolithic and the Bronze Age and come all the way up to sort of 1700s to 1800s. So what we've really tried to do is represent as big a time frame as possible. We have coins. What I really like in particular about here in Cornwall is we're very lucky in that we get a lot of metalworking items that not only are the actual finished tools, but they're linked to metalworking and the craftsmanship behind the tools. So for example, we've got this miscast fragment of a chisel, and in the last display we had a miscast copper alloy axe head. And these are really interesting objects because they don't only show that we've got finished tools, but that we've got tools that went wrong. And not only do we have tools that went wrong, but they still exist today. Their metal hasn't been melted down and reused, and I think that's really, really interesting. And what's really nice is to compare it to more finished items. So then, for example, we have a copper alloy chisel also on this round of the display, and in the last display we had a really nice stone axe head mould from the Bronze Age. And just having that range of not only objects that represent the end of the craftsmanship process, but objects from the start of the craftsmanship process. Another thing that I also really like is when we get more into the medieval, post-medieval periods, we start to have a range of finds that maybe are a little less, unless you knew what they were, they're a little bit more difficult to work out. So for example, we've got a really nice zoomorphic roundel here, which would have been on a cross in a Catholic church, and you would have seen a roundel on each arm of the cross representing the four evangelists. So for example, here is a winged lion, which represents St. Mark. And so obviously, you know, it's really nice to be able to show you intact examples. So we've got a little example behind it from the museum, National Museum of Wales in Cardiff's collections. And then, for example, we also have a chafing dish arm, which I think is particularly nice. You can see sort of the anthropomorphic details, so it's a human face. And I've got another example here from the Grand Curtius Museum in Liège, which is in Belgium, and you can see the arm here with the little head, human head on it, which is almost exactly the same as the one we've got on display. So that's always very exciting when you can present a find that is part of a bigger find to help contextualise what some of the stuff is that's coming up in the ground in Cornwall. And so we've been really, really lucky. What we've got coming in soon, which we don't have on display for the minute, but keep your eyes peeled, we're going to have a few more Roman things. We're having a couple more Roman things coming on display, and also a Byzantine coin. And we were really lucky that in the last round we had a really beautifully preserved Roman brooch, and we also had a really beautifully preserved Roman terret ring. So for people who don't know, that would have been attached to the horse harness, and the reins would have come through it and attached to the chariot. So we've been really, really lucky that Cornwall actually brings up such a wide variety of finds, and I felt really honoured to be able to curate this display every 6 months at the Museum of Cornish Life, so the visitors can see something new. So if you come back, you know, 6 months later, you'll see something new that wasn't in here before. And just to finish off then, I also really highly encourage to come look at the Boden finds, because it's a local dig from nearby. We've got a lovely range of Treviscoware that's got loads of different design work on it. We get the stone axe fragment there, for example, so that links to we know that there's lots of different green stones in Cornwall, and we know that they're being exploited as early as the Neolithic. So it's really nice, that links into sort of craftsmanship and trading. And then we also have lots of lovely pottery from representing most of the different prehistoric, well, Neolithic onwards periods, including Romano-British, obviously some really nice imported ware. So we've got the largest sherd thus far of Samian ware, and just some other really, really lovely pieces linked to occupation that have come out of the Boden Community dig. So I'm very, very excited that both the PAS display and the Boden display gets updated on a regular basis, and we can show the public some of these really, really lovely finds.
One of the projects I've been working on in the museum over the past 6 months is our Tuesday Talks programme, where we have a specialist speaker who comes in and talks about a specialism of their own choosing. We were fortunate last November to have Laura, who discussed all the finds from the year previous, so that was in 2023. And yes, it was another great occasion to see people coming to the museum, looking at the finds in the new display, and also hearing an expert of Laura's standing, being able to discuss what kind of objects are being found in Cornwall.
One of my favourites is the seal matrix, which was connected with the deanery at Launceston Castle. What I found particularly interesting is the castle emblem on it, which is, when you look at lots of regimental badges, that castle emblem is used throughout an awful lot of badges.
My favourite object of the community display has to be actually two objects, the two coins found. I believe one's Elizabeth I and one's Edward II, or possible forgery. I always think coins are some of the most interesting, more than just the gold, silver kind of thing. I think they're a fascinating window into the past, not only about the monarchs whose faces are displayed on them, but where they're minted, what were the reasons behind. Usually there's a much deeper story.
Thank you.